So today we are taking a look at SilentNet. This is a relatively new malware sample. However, despite the name being SilentNet, this malware is anything but. We're going to open Firefox first and we are going to show it in VirusTotal. This has 50 out of 69 detections. Nice. And we're going to look for the two big names, Bitdefender and Kaspersky. We can see Bitdefender does have a generic detection, but it's a detection nonetheless. And Kaspersky has a heuristics detection for convagent. We're going to go to details. Here's your MD5, SHA-1, and SHA-256. If you want to put this in for yourself, you're going to have to type it in manually. YouTube deleted all of my videos for having these in the description, so I can't put them there. It says the creation time was yesterday. Usually I don't go along with the creation time because it's very easy to fake this. However, I am willing to believe it in this case. And the first submission was not too long ago, almost 9 hours. Here's the names it's been uploaded under. One of them is a hack client, so it's most likely to be expected that this was being passed around as a Trojan pretending to be a client for a video game crack or something along those lines. If we go to relations, we have 5 contacted URLs. 3 of them have quite a few detections, and the URL is https:// this is a false positive.st. My brother and Allah, you are not slick. We also have 19 contacted domains. A lot of them do have some detections. One of them is polygon.publicnode. There's another polygon.-rpc for remote procedure call. There's a subquery.network. There's another RPC. And then we have this random string.ru, which we can assume that it's in Russia based off of the TLD here. And then we have this as a false positive.st once again. We also have Python. So we can probably assume that this is written in Python, but we'll come to look at that later. 23 contacted IP addresses. 2 of them do have some detections, although it's just a few of them. So we can take a look at those later on. 7 bundled files, 358 drop files. I'm not going to look through all of that here. We will do that in the virus analysis itself. If we go to behavior, we have quite a lot going on. 11 medium MITRE signatures, 18 low, and 24 info. We will come back to look at this later because I've started doing this in my newer videos. 17 low IDS rules, but 3 high, 4 medium, and 3 low Sigma rules. And last but not least, if we go to the community, we can see Jaffa Cakes has been here. Burger, I'm not entirely sure who that is. Securite Info, TinesBot, Carlos Cabal, Joe Security. Those are the people that have been here so far, and it has a community score of -12. We'll go ahead and lower that, and we'll show the tools we'll be using for this video. We have Wireshark, which I'll go ahead and reset. System Informer, which is ready to go. Zooey, and Process Monitor, which I will also go ahead and reset. Last but not least, let's take a look at the properties for this file. If we go to details, we have no properties whatsoever. All that we can see is that it's 1.08 megabytes. They did absolutely nothing to try to mask itself. They didn't even try to pretend that it's a hack client in the file description. They just left it blank. Usually not the best sign. So without any further ado, we will go ahead and open System Informer and run the malware. Do you want to allow this app from an unknown publisher to make changes to your device? Yeah, sure, why not? So we click yes, and immediately we see some stuff going on down here. We see curl.exe, python.exe, and the console host. So yes, this malware is most likely written in Python. Curl is being called again, and the malware has done everything that it's set to do. So if you're not familiar with what curl is, most of you probably won't, this is a sideloaded application that can be downloaded for calling URLs to be sent from one machine to the other. So we can assume that this has rat technology built into it. But now we'll go ahead and open Process Monitor, and we're going to do 2 filters. The first filter is going to be process name is SilentNet.exe, because that was the name of the malware we ran. And then operation is create file. We'll click add and we'll click apply. Now there's not a whole lot going on here. We're not going to see the juicier details from this point. We're going to have to look at something else for that. So we're going to look through these really quick. We can see that it's opening the application here. It does have a prefetch, which it seems to have deleted when it was done. It did download cryptbase.dll, which is a custom DLL. But I'm looking for one in particular. It may not be here, but we will find it later. We do see a tar.exe, which I didn't actually notice in testing, so we can take a look at that. But the main one I'm looking at, once we find it, is... I'm not actually seeing it here. It should be the Python executable, but now I'm not actually seeing it. We will be taking a look at curl.exe as well. And there it is, python.exe. We also have pip.exe, which is a custom library for Python. It's a very popular one, not malicious in and of itself. So we won't be looking at that. But the first thing we'll look at is we'll go ahead and open up, what was the name of it again? tar.exe. So we'll remove SilentNet and we will put in tar.exe, and click add, and click apply. Not a lot going on here either. It looks like this may just be another library for Python, because the first thing that we saw was a license. But if we look through here, it immediately calls console host. Not a great sign, but there is one thing that I'm noticing right off the bat is VC runtime 140.dll. This is a DLL that, although not inherently malicious in and of itself, it is usually used for malicious purposes, and I will take a look at that later. We do also have some other Python data files, and we have that license. So we'll go ahead and jump to it, and we will open the license text file. Python was created in the early 1990s by Guido van Rossum at blah, 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 blah. Is there anything actually to do with a package itself? No, this looks like it is just the license of Python. So we won't be looking any further into that. We'll scroll down a little bit further. I don't see anything else that's immediately just jumping out to me. I do see a bunch of Python commands that are being run, but not really much more to look at in that. So we are going to apply a different filter. We'll remove tar.exe, and we are going to put in python.exe. We'll click apply, and as we can see, we have 8,000 events. Now I'm going to skim through this a little bit because most of the stuff that we see here isn't malicious. We do see VC runtime 140.dll called again, and then the DLL file for Python itself. But if we scroll through here, it might take a little bit of time, but we should start seeing some very sus things immediately. We see a zip file, nothing out of the ordinary there. We're probably going to have to scroll down about halfway. I'm not going to click and drag the bar because I might miss something if I do that, so this will take a little bit longer than usual, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. We do see something interesting here. We see an app data, we have an access test, delete me, fish fingers custard, v3y VCP. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it looks like the malware may have already deleted it. We'll try this anyway, so we'll go to C, users, Larry Bodenheimer, app data, local, Microsoft, Windows, NT profile index, and then we have that access test. So there's a lot of packages for Python in here, but as for that access test in and of itself, it doesn't actually seem to be in here. As a matter of fact, it looks like this is actually where Python itself was installed to, and VC runtime 140 is actually still here. So we'll go ahead and close that. And if we keep going, we're going to start seeing some very interesting things. We see a rustc.exe, something to keep in mind for the future, and we're seeing a lot of different things under it. These have all been deleted, unfortunately, once they were called, but we have a com, exe, bat, command, vbs, vbe, js, jsc, wsf, wsh, and msc. So we're going to skim past that, and here is where we start seeing some very juicy stuff. We see open SSH. So it looks like an SSH client was open on the device at one point, although since these have been deleted and the malware is no longer running, it probably is not present and running on the device anymore. So if we keep going, we do see another thing here in app data, local pip cache, HTTP version 2, and we see A1953, and then a bunch of text here. This is most likely meant to throw off malware analysts by making a bunch of subdirectories, but we'll jump to that, and we do actually have that file here. Now, it's probably going to be difficult to read, but I'll open it in Notepad, And can we zoom this out any? Yeah, but it becomes pretty hard to read. So we have some stuff here. We have response, body headers, connection keep alive. So this is meant for persistence. There's a get string here. So this is for HTTP. It is trying to get information from a server. Last serial, content encoding, access control. Not really a whole lot to look at. We have an age 600, or a max age 600. So this means that, let's see, how many seconds are in a minute? 60. Oh, I knew that already, but I'm doing the math. So I'm pretty sure that the max age for this is 10 minutes. And if it reaches the max age, then the connection to it is killed automatically. And the profile is forced, or not the profile, the executable is forced to crash. If we look through any more than this, we can see the date that was assigned to it. So it is reading the date in Greenwich Mean Time, which is used for the United Kingdom. So that's interesting. Although that might just be because this was installed with the English International set. That is something to keep in mind as well. Although the current time is set for Eastern Standard Time. And if we look through, I'm not seeing anything else that's too suspicious. I see there's a JSON file, although I doubt I'm going to find it at this point. And then there's a huge max age for that JSON. I don't even know how many minutes that is, and I'm not going to do the math. So we'll go ahead and close that. Not really too much to look at there, but it is definitely an artifact that was left behind by the malware. We can see it ran PowerShell. Is there anything else that we can really get a good look at here? There's nothing to look at in all of this. I saw this in testing, but there's a little more at the end that's different. So we can see scripts and NT profile index is still a part of pip, so not really much to look at there. And that does seem to be everything to look at in process monitor. So there is a lot of artifacting left behind. It didn't do a very good job of cleaning up after itself. To the untrained eye, a lot of things here like VC runtime 140.dll might not look too suspicious, but to a malware analyst, they're going to pick up on this pretty quick. So I'm not going to close it yet, just in case, but we're going to go ahead and minimize process monitor. And we're going to take a look at Wireshark, and we are going to stop the packet capture, and we are going to save this as 1.pcapng. We're going to go to Zooey, and we're going to shove it in here. Import data, documents, 1.pcap, and we're going to give this a little bit of time. The next thing we're going to look at is we're going to go back to VirusTotal and look at the behavior. So I did say we were going to take a look at some MITRE signatures in each video, just to get you guys familiar with the MITRE attack framework. So which ones are the two that's the most interesting right off the bat? I'm seeing indicator removal, impaired defenses, and virtualization sandbox evasion. So I'm going to look at indicator removal, time stomping. So we can't actually look at it that way, but if I put in, okay, we can just hover over it like that. Adversaries may selectively delete or modify artifacts generated to reduce indications of their presence and blend in with legitimate activity. And if that's confusing to you, that's basically what we just saw in Process Explorer, which is all of the artifacts that was dropping and then deleting once it was done with them. It didn't do it for all of them, but it did do it for most. Rather than broadly removing evidence, adversaries may target specific artifacts that appear anomalous or are likely to draw scrutiny while leaving sufficient data intact to maintain the appearance of normal system behavior. Artifacts such as command histories, log entries, or file metadata may be altered in ways that align with expected user or system activity. Location, format, and type of artifact, such as command or login history, are often platform-specific, allowing adversaries to tailor modifications that minimize suspicion. These actions may not prevent detection entirely, but can delay recognition of malicious activity or reduce fidelity of alerts by making events appear benign or consistent with routine operations. And then I think we'll go ahead and take a look at impaired defenses as well. So if we hover over that, adversaries may maliciously modify components of a victim environment in order to hinder or disable defensive mechanisms. This is not only involves impairing preventative defenses, such as firewalls and antivirus, but also detection capabilities that defenders can use to audit activity and identify malicious behavior. So it's not very good at it, because I did use Process Monitor to see literally everything that it just did, but something to keep in mind. It does have that capability. And then data destruction. very scary, but we've seen this before, and the reason it's low is because it's just deleting files that it included for its actions. So it's not actually deleting any of your data or your information. It's just deleting files that it left behind so that you have a harder time catching it. Zooey should be done now, and indeed it is. Now, usually, Zooey does not do a very good job, standardly, because I haven't modified this, of catching anomalous network activity, but we're finally, for the first time in a long time, going to see this in use. So we immediately see in alert 3, Suricata app layer wrong direction. That doesn't mean anything. So there's a lot of these. We could ignore all of that. So we'll skim down a little bit. Notice probably an invalid Microsoft certificate, and indeed it is. So that can be ignored as well. But if we keep going down, we should see, here we go. Signature etinfo observe file hosting service domain files.pythonhosted.org ntls sni. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Go back up. Category miscellaneous activity, and it was allowed because we don't actually have an intrusion prevention system set up, only this intrusion detection system. So we'll minimize that, and we'll go down to the next one, and we observe files pythonhosted.org again, and again. So if we go down a little more, is there anything else? Yes, there is. etinfo observe DNS query to blockchain remote procedure call domain rpc-mainnet.matic.quicknode.pro. Category miscellaneous activity, and again, action was allowed. And we have another one for Polygon-RPC. And known hosts, probably not anything to look at there. So we did actually find some activity, not anything as too dangerous or too suspicious, which is why these are alert 3s, and they're very easy to confuse with Suricata miscellaneous information. But it is something to keep in mind. So we will actually take a look at a few of these IPs and a few links. Now, rarely this does anything, but after our Radamanthus malware, and we got that fake FBI splash screen in our browser, I'm addicted to doing this, even if the results are usually not that great. So the first thing I want to take a look at is sltnnt.ru. We'll try to connect to this, and it probably will time out, because it's probably not set up for direct connections. But the next one I'll try is this is a false positive.st. And we get suspicious site blocked from Spectrum, which is my internet provider. And it's not going to let me go any further ahead. So what I'm going to do is I am going to set up Proton VPN on my host and see if we can get away with that. So I'm going to connect to Secaucus, and we're going to try that again. And it does seem actually to be trying to connect, but we're most likely still going to get a connection timeout like we did with this. Fair enough, but we'll try it anyway. We do also have the Polygon. I'll try to connect to that directly, and it can't connect to the server. It looks like this server might not actually be up anymore. So we'll just try this one here. And we connect to Polygon remote procedure call endpoint. Lightning fast, completely free, and remarkably reliable. Boost your performance today. Public access has been deprecated. Sign in to start using the endpoint for free. And it looks like this has actually just completely timed out. So that's not very helpful. We'll go ahead and close those. Obviously, I'm not going to sign into this, but it looks like it has a lot of things for Bitcoin. Or I guess Bitcoin is not the right word for it, cryptocurrency. And there's a lot of these I've never heard of before. Electronium? Okay, do we have Monero here? We do not have Monero here. Duly noted. So it does look like this is actually a thing that's used for Bitcoin miners. So we can see why this has some detections. And we do have these IP addresses as well. Probably not going to tell us anything we haven't seen before. And DDoS guard has actually blocked us from connecting. Server could not complete your request. Might be a good idea to check back later. I really hate DDoS guard, but Well, it's not letting us in, so nothing we can do about it. And then this IP address as well, if we try to connect directly to it, it just says not found. You know, I kind of get this feeling that that's just a false splash screen. Duly noted. But that's really all that we're going to be able to take a look at from here. We will take a look at the Sigma rules, and as you can see, we have the 3 Sigma rules here. So the first one is suspicious curl.exe detects a suspicious curl process start on Windows and outputs the requested document to a local file. So what this means is, curl is taking a specific amount of information, putting it in a text file, or just a file of any kind, and sending it to the C2 server. And then we have potential VC runtime 140 DLL sideloading, which is what I mentioned earlier. Detects potential DLL sideloading of VC runtime 140, a common C++ runtime library. Threat actors have been observed using DLL sideloading techniques to load malicious payloads under the guise of legitimate applications such as SQL Writer, SQL Dumper, etc., documented leveraging Wine Loader to sideload VC runtime 140 for executing malicious code. And then the final one, we have uncommon service host command line parameter. Detects instances of service host running with an unusual or uncommon command line parameter by excluding known legitimate or common patterns. This could point at a file masquerading as service host, a process injection, or hollowing a legitimate service host. And the rest of these aren't really worth looking at. But we do have that tar.exe. And then we see a lot of blockchain stuff for the crowdsourced IDS rules, which we did see earlier as well. But that's really about all that we're going to be able to take a look at with this. We showed Wireshark, we showed Zooey, we showed System Informer, and we showed Process Monitor. The final thing to do is to restart the malware and see, restart the computer, and see if the malware has persistence. Most likely does not. I haven't really seen anything in Process Monitor or System Informer that would make me think that it has anything set in the startup directory, but we'll take a look. So once this boots up, we are going to open System Informer as quick as we possibly can, and we're going to look for anything suspicious. It could show up anywhere, but it's most likely to show up under services.exe. As of right now, I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary, which means that this most likely is just a simple info stealer that runs once and then is done, because I'm not seeing anything that would make me think otherwise. We haven't seen any suspicious programs open, and we don't see anything running in System Informer. So it looks like that is all that there is with SilentNet. And that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to leave a like and a comment in the comment section down below, and consider subscribing if you're new. My name is Larry Bodenheimer, you guys are amazing, and I will see you in the next one.